Welcome to another edition of the Wellness Workshops, MyBizGuide Wellness Workshops. I'm Kraig Smyth, your host, MyBizGuide, Business of Being Human. Tonight's topic is the topic of all topics. This is the major topic. This is Wellness in a Sick Society. Wellness in a Sick Society is tonight's topic. So, yeah, thanks. We had a couple weeks off. We had some out of town time, and so I appreciate everybody being back. I had plans for someone else to be able to keep the show going um, while I was gone, um, but maybe next time. So yeah, appreciate everyone. Appreciate everyone being here. Um, to preface these conversations again, these are things that have worked for me. This is the way I see things. And ultimately, I just want to keep these conversations going and provide a platform for people to share life experiences, to listen to other life experiences, share our views. I think that one of the most human things we can do is share our introspect and, talk about important things. And our important things is being human. And the book I'm writing and the modality, the business of being human, is about looking at our self and our species from an objective viewpoint, is the short version. And I'll throw a couple other things in there. When we talk about business, we're not talking about commoditized business, but trade. And, everything trades energy. We're all exchanging. So, like right now, in essence, we're doing business. We're all giving our energy and our time into a conversation and creating value. And with that value, we take that value and we grow it and exchange it among other people. So at its core, because I know business can have a negative connotation for people, but again, before mass commoditization, commercialization, and at its core, business is creating something of value and exchanging it for something of fair compensation. And energy is our first commerce, and everything exchanges energy. So part of what I do is corporate wellness. And so some of these things I'll use to talk about trade, pre-commoditized trade, pre-printed currency trade, that kind of thing. Because trade, if we think about it from a species view, trade has facilitated such hallmarks of humanity as communication, teamwork, leadership, process development, bridging of cultures, understanding of value. So there's a lot that goes into trade in business. And so, when we say business, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. People have been doing business and exchanging in a healthy way for a long, long time. So there's some nuances, but yeah, business of being human, looking at some of the challenges in contemporary society um, is the main thing. It's always going to get back to that. It's always going to get back to, where have we been? Where are we now? What are some of the what are some variables that are going on in our communities in contemporary society? So wellness in a sick society is tonight's topic. Um, and that was my intro, my a little bit of my disclaimer there too. So again, just trying to share some ideas, and some maybe these things resonate with you, maybe some things more than others, but just a conversation. It's not about right and wrong, although I think if we talk enough, we'll see some parallels. Um, One of the key things for being human, looking at our species, is pattern recognition. And so when we have authentic conversations, that pattern recognition kicks in and we can see where different aspects flow from one area to another in parallel. So we talked about earlier, I had a meeting with the editor that I've been working with now for 2 years. And one of the topics was the over-reliance on science. And we were talking about the difference between empirical data and collecting imperial data versus pattern recognition and instinct and objective thought processing and emotional intelligence, ancestral wisdom. Where are those natural things that people have used to sort through information and grow and grow our intelligence? Where are these natural things that people have used since people have been people and way before the scientific method was ever invented? Where are these kind of things? So we don't want to, and this is a big sticking point in contemporary society. It speaks a lot to scarcity mindset and a quick fix mentality. People will take something like the scientific method, which could be a useful tool, but to hold up that tool and that process in front of natural observation and, like I said, instinct, objective thought process, ancestral wisdom, and and emotional intelligence. And so with that scientific method, if we were going to say, well, I mean, I'm not going to beat the dead horse too much, or at least try not to. Sometimes it's kind of fun anyways, just to keep in practice. But, looking at it objectively, right, here's the business model that we have. We have a problem with our species. Our species is killing its environment. Okay, that's a dead horse I'm not going to beat too much. It's like, that's what's going on. Let's start from there. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here, that's for sure. So what are the challenges there? What are the challenges? So, well, it's internal. So basically, we're talking a lot about psychology, sociology, biology, natural science, and understand some of these things that some of these new um, some of these new variables that have been introduced into the human species. And by new, if we say the human species, the Homo sapien, again, science caveat, science says a Homo sapien, 300,000 years old, Homo genus, 3 million years old. If we say 10,000 years or 20,000 years, that's relatively new in the existence of our species, and especially in our genus. So undoing some of the contemporary misgivings, colonialism, to use that word, these kind of things, typically we go back and look at agriculture, the beginning of agriculture, and when people got off hunting and gathering. We look at how the species evolved. My background in fisheries, forestry, wildlife, natural science says you don't understand an organism unless you understand the habitat that it evolved in. So look at that. Yeah, Shantae knows this one. So that's a really important thing. And one of the top physiologists, Gabor Mate, repeats that pretty well too when we're talking about human behavior. He says, if you're going to study an elephant, you won't study it in a zoo, you'd study it in its natural habitat. And same thing with our own species. We have to look at how our own species developed in its natural habitat. And so then we can start to say, okay, how did we develop as a species? And then what are some of these new things and how are we off track as a species? And there's a couple newer people here, so I'll go through a little bit more review, but kind of the short version to go back on the science and the business to look at some things is that when our species were all hunter-gatherers, think about all the things that we had to know and pay attention to in our environment. Think about that from just an objective standpoint. We had to know all the different plants and animals and all their different movements and all their different seasons and all that sort of thing. And so if we look at our cognitive function, our brain back over here in the corner, if we look at that as our most important tool, and that's the only reason that humans got this far is because we've been able to understand and create tools, and the brain in itself is a tool. So how is this tool being sharpened? Well, when we take off huge components of our evolutionary understanding, that's a thing. So just wanted to go over a little bit of a review there, talking about traditional societies and traditional evolution of the human species as opposed to contemporary. And a lot of what we talk about is based on what I call cognitive growth and healing. And to go through that a little bit more is that through simple understanding, through the objective thought process, that objective thought process resonates with us on a core level, right? That's how humans got to be humans, by understanding, by pattern recognition, by putting the pieces together. And that allows us to even foresee a couple steps ahead and go through things like the hypothesis and the scientific method. It's, well, if there's this is here and it's not here, then it must be somewhere else. So that deductive logic is a big part of the human-centric makeup. It's kind of unique too, I think, although other animals show that as well. So not completely unique, but it's definitely a big tool for the humans. So context, by understanding the context of what we have, is one of those ways that we can understand and grow some levity, or add some levity and add some context, add some understanding into a challenge that we're trying to outgrow.
Sorry, brother.
So I'll just mute him for a sec. So the cognitive growth and healing. So wellness in a sick society. Okay, so what are the, going through the process, being pragmatic about the process. Here's one way, just did an overview of the sick society and some differences. And I think that, everyone here is down with the program. So the challenge is it feels so personal, right? And we're so deeply affected, right? Because we have collective consciousness. And our collective consciousness, what in Mitakiasi, we're all connected. We're connected to everything, not just humans, but everything, all the plants, all the animals, the universe. We're all here together. But since we're human species, we're extra close to each other, something that's not really recognized in contemporary society, but like what traditional society 101, Tom Shantae, right? Mitakiasi, isn't that like the first thing the first thing, if you were going to explain something to someone about traditional society? So because we're so closely connected to each other as a species, we really do feel and pick up energy from the collective, and we're affected by the actions of the collective on a deep level. So to understand this is happening, and I think everyone's on board with that. So how do we address that when we wake up and it's like all these things are already happening? Like everybody, there's no one here over 100. I mean, everyone here has already woke up into this trauma, into this sickness. Everyone here has, had lights and industrialization and all that sort of thing. So, wow, we wake up to a shit show. Basically, we're born into a shit show. And how do we start to reconcile that? Cognitive growth and healing. Understanding why And the simple understanding why, and there's lots of whys, there's lots of reasons, there's lots of aspects to this. And it's not a 2 hour conversation. It's a lifetime. So, we keep talking about these things in the review, and the people that have been here before will see where everything keeps kind of coming back around, and how the parallels happen, and where all the connections happen, and the connections, for example, between scarcity mindset, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism, addiction, all those sort of things. But when we start to understand these things, from big picture, and again, looking at ourselves as species, we start to get some levity. And I say there's a natural emotional healing component to the understanding. So as we start to recognize these patterns, when we start to get a handle on, oh, okay, here's this situation where the human species is off its evolutionary trajectory. Okay, we can understand that. That's a real easy thing to understand. That's why I like to talk about the objective thought process and the cognitive growth and healing, because we can create these. Look, here's the species. The species has been around for 300,000 years, 3 million years, and everything before that. And now this happened, and this is going on that's different for that, right? If you're used to living in the dark and then someone turns the light on all of a sudden, it's going to be traumatic, vice versa. And that's just a natural science. That's another natural science component, evolutionary trajectory, and how an organism develops. So again, if you want to understand an organism, you have to understand the environment that it involved in. And to understand its environment, interesting thing, that also means that we don't understand ourselves unless we understand our natural environment. Key, big key. And understanding the natural environment, what I say, natural laws, connection to everything, challenge, and challenge of life or death, sustainability, ebb, flow, cycles, balance, all those things are part of our natural environment. We involved in our natural environment, and we have those things in ourselves too. So as we go through and we understand our physical environment, well, that's just science. That's just modern medicine, is understanding the physical environment. But also our mental, emotional, spiritual environments will reflect these natural ebb, flow, cycles, connection to everything. Yeah, just repeating myself. Challenge, sustainability. Uh, all these things, of course, are, there's more discussion on them if anyone wants to message me another day or later or whatever. And there's many aspects, especially if you're new to hearing it. So cognitively understanding our connection to everything, connection to each other, where we're at, how this works. Through the understanding, there's a natural healing, right? And understanding some natural things that happen. Oh, as humans, when we understand, we're growing, and there's a natural emotional wellness component, to put it that way, that's built in. So when we're on the right track, when we're understanding, when we're growing our understanding, when we're growing that foundation that is understanding, there's a natural resonance. So we're connecting with that. We're connecting with that natural resonance, and that easy to understand. This plus this equals this. This is what it looks like. This is what we're going with. So the challenge, and is being organisms on this planet, and understanding how organisms act and react. There's the fight or flight. When we wake up, to use that term, when we understand that there's challenges and extreme challenges, and extreme challenges, real extreme challenges, there's a tendency to flight, to take the flight path. I think that everyone here has tried to run from society on one level or another. And I say everyone here, But I would make a very good argument that just plain ass everybody is trying to run from society. And of course, we see that in materialism. I mean, that's kind of like a classic example of addiction. But it even gets deeper than that because society is made up of individuals. So the first thing is that people are running from themselves. People running from themselves and groups of people running from themselves ends up being a society. And a society running from themselves in line with understanding classic addiction is filling the voids and looking for quick fixes. So filling the void of personal development with everything that goes there, right? So this is addiction 101. Coke, crack, alcohol, sugar, cars, sex, ideology, everything, all the quick fixes. And then welcome to America. So that is Americana, is the quick fixes and the materialism. So some pattern recognition. Oh, filling the void, materialism, addiction. Okay. So we've got these kind of things. People running from themselves, and just like addiction, the classic hallmark of addiction is it escalates or snowballs or spirals downhill. So once you start a habitat of addiction, once there's a culture of addiction that's engaging in addiction, it enables more addiction. It's a safe place for addiction. Again, welcome to America. Safe place for addiction number one. Safe place for everything except for these kinds of conversations. Easy for me to say, right? So where's the conversation? Where's the contemporary conversations about real things that matter? Species is killing its planet. In the meantime, people are playing video games, buying new cars, going out to movies, all these kind of things. Now, is that a traumatic understanding? It could be. But in that understanding is that emotional healing. So always facing the challenge, always understanding the challenge is going to be better than not understanding the challenge. And here's again, lessons from addiction. I think most people here have some understanding of addiction. If not, follow along and here's some more overview. Feel free to message me on the side about more addiction. There's lots to talk about that. But that is really what we're talking about. But if we wake up to this illness, if we understand, oh wow, there's a lot of illness, this species is not in line with anything that I believe in. Contemporary society is not aligned with anything that resonates with me on a positive level. How do we run from that? Well, the first thing is that we really can't. And that's easy for us to say now, but on an energetic level, I think most people have tried to run from contemporary society and are engaged in behaviors that reflect that. And another aspect of this is most people that are just slightly above the curve have tried to run from themselves. And when I use the term medicine people, everyone's tried to run from themselves. So interesting that there's a population segment that's not engaging with themselves at all, and then population segment that has engaged with themselves and then tried to run. And then ultimately, when we heal, we come back into ourselves. So natural cycle is going there, reacting to our stimuli, reacting to the collective. So we understand, oh, geez, we're taking up this energy from the collective. We're part of the collective. How can we? There's two options. There's to try not to address it or to address it. So always engaging in the challenge is the way to go. And we know this from all the times that we've tried to avoid the obvious. And, avoiding the elephant in the room gets us shit on and stepped on. So understanding these big things, and this is part of understanding like how actually challenge works, right? So challenge is an intricate part of human development, is an intricate part of life in general. Everything has challenge. Challenge has to be there. Okay, so let's take a step back. Look at contemporary society. Look how much effort contemporary society puts into avoiding challenge. See, so there's a huge disconnect. And in fact, work has a negative connotation because of that. And I talk about this pretty much on the regular. Work and serious, those words that reflect those concepts have negative connotations. People are working so hard to get away from work. But at our core, oh, give me a second. It's going to be worth it, I promise. At our core, work, does it work or does it not work, is the actual right and wrong. So if we look at ourselves on a species level, knowing what works instinctually or ancestrally and objectively and everything else is a critical part of being human. So engaging challenge, working, those things, that's a huge disconnect in contemporary society, because engaging in challenge is work, but it's not involuntary servitude. It's not flipping burgers late night at a fast food restaurant so you can pay the bills. Personal development work, involuntary servitude work. Two completely opposite ends of the spectrum that are stuck behind the same word. So understanding some of these things, and that understanding, and like we went through the differentiation of business and earlier and what business is, those help give us levity. Those help bring some more context into the conversation. And when we resonate with that understanding these differences helps give us some more context to going through our challenge, to embracing our challenge. So super important, embracing these challenges, embracing this big challenge of societal illness. And how do we embrace the challenge of societal illness? What we recognize that throughout a couple, pretty easy examples. I'm sure no one needed them. What do we do about societal illness? Well, society is made up of individuals. And to put it that way, everyone here is an individual. So by understanding society, we understand ourselves. By understanding ourselves, we understand our society. Everyone that's been through addiction, that's been through challenge, that sees things in a bigger perspective is all part of the solution. So even though there's this energetic, um, I don't really want to say instinct, but there's a potential for the reaction for us to want to run away from these big giant challenges of societal illness. The cure is going towards that. And the interesting thing is that going towards that is understanding ourselves, and just plain understanding and understanding our species and understanding behavior. Because when we do this, there's a natural, again, that natural levity starts to separate things. And when we understand things, we can speak to them better. And when we understand them, we can process them better. So understanding where our species is now, where it's been, some of these words that we're using, like, behavior, psychology, sociology, that kind of thing, to give us some context. So and then here's the balance part, right? We talked about challenge is a natural law, balance is another natural law. The balance, don't forget, going through scarcity mindset, narcissism, the not doing personal development, right? The population segment that is not what we call emotionally intelligent, to, keep the conversation moving forward here. That population, um, to understand that population, that's happening versus the other part of the population that we're doing the introspect. So doing the introspect, so there's a population segment that's not doing the introspect: scarcity mindset, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism. And then there's the population that's doing the introspect. But the balance would say, are the people doing the introspect having to do twice as much introspect because half of the population segment is not doing their introspect? Because we're so close, because we're so closely connected, because we're the same species and energetically, we feel this. So that's a lot of pressure. And there's an instinctual thing that says, it shouldn't be quite like this. But if we understand some of the possible things that's going on here, you can say, okay, that's maybe a possibility. And if we're going to heal or grow through that, that means that in essence, the people that are more inclined to understand need to completely lap the people that are less inclined to understand. Where's my whiteboard? Well, we know what we're talking about, right? If someone's trying not to do so, if someone's trying not to grow, if someone is engaged in cognitive dissonance with their own growth process and the environment that they developed in, and someone else is trying to engage it, does it make sense that the person that's trying to grow will outgrow the person that's trying not to grow? So that's the finding optimism part. Thank Nikki for that, by the way. So there's things that if we think about it, so there's some more wellness, there's some more healing by understanding, oh, okay, people, how can this work? Well, there's one example how it can work. It's not quantity, it's not quantity, it's quality, and it's leverage, and it's growth. So the same thing, we could use a contemporary example. Can one eighth grader outsmart, 5 first graders? So it's a knowledge, it's accumulation. Can one person or can 10 people survive in a natural environment better than 100 people? It depends on the people. If the people are trained to survive in a natural environment or adapted survival in natural environment, it might not even be an issue. But for everybody else, it's not even an option. So understanding the leverage that we grow through understanding is important. Understanding that our give back balance, right? There's give and receive. There's give and receive. So as we grow, and naturally we're supposed to be distributing it, to put it that way. There's a natural energy that encourages us to exchange information like this, to exchange our introspects. That's why I said at the beginning of this, I think that one of the most human things we can do is trade introspect and talk about our introspect, because we all have the same basic components and we're all up against the same basic challenges. So there's this natural energy saying run away. Then there's a natural energy saying understand what the hell is going on. And then there's a natural energy that says now you need to help what's going on. because there's no real running away, even though many things going on at the same time, right? So this is, if you've ever heard me say disengage from linear mindset, this is it, because we have to grow boundaries with collective and do our own introspect, but we also have to give back. And that is a balance, and that is an understanding. I think it's an art. It's part of our growth, but we have to have our own wellness. We have to grow our own wellness, but then we also have to give back. A lot of people get stuck on their own wellness part. And again, real big hiccup in contemporary society that contemporary people, to use that term, want to go up on the hill and stay there. And but traditionally, it's giving back. We go into our introspect, we do our processing, and then we compare notes. We give back. See that flow, that trade. There's lots of examples. I like the example of the eagle goes out, catches fish, brings it back to the chicks. And we're always, our community, we're all doing that. We're all going out, and here's the hunter-gatherer, where I said earlier about traditional lessons and natural cycles coming through. Here's that hunter-gatherer. We're all hunting and gathering information about our introspect and our life journey, and we're bringing it back and we're trading it with other people. So, is that a good trade? Right? So we're trading information. I'm trading my introspect. So this natural to give back by understanding ourselves. We're not just understanding ourselves to understand ourselves and yeehaw, hey, that's great. Look, I'm going to write a book. I understood myself. Congratulations. It's not, there's a reason. There's a reason for everything. When people lose track of that reason, and this is the egocentric, again, contemporary society, getting caught up in the egocentric and the me, scarcity mindset, but we're supposed to share. And we're supposed to, yes, go hunt, gather information, go back. And there's that direct correlation to the hunting and gathering. And when we're learning, when we're growing, we're mimicking, we're duplicating, or I'm trying to think of a better word here. Well, that mosquito is in my ear. Kunka Anila. When we're gathering information, when we're growing, we're learning, that's that hunt and gather. We're going and it's just like a path. We're going through the forest, we're going, out, and we're paying attention to what's going on. And oh, look, here's something valuable, right? And oh, here's something valuable, and here's something valuable. And I like to say everything's like fishing, because we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and we cast and cast and cast and cast and cast, and then oh, there's one. Oh, here's another one. And we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, nothing. Oh, there's one. So there's lots of correlations to nature in our natural development process. So we pay attention to what we're doing, to our existence on a holistic level, and we can see these patterns. We can see this pattern recognition. As we understand those things as individuals, we integrate back into contemporary society, quote unquote, and we can speak better to these things. And I know someone just had a strong interaction with someone from the contemporary society demographic this last weekend. But to understand that behavior, to understand someone that's in a deeper reactive state, when we use these terms, reactive, compulsive, and addiction, to understand when someone's sick, how does someone react when they're sick? And understand when we're talking about healing and growth and wellness and truth and being happy, and those things that you need to do, those things that you need to let go of, and the things that you need to understand to receive wellness and growth and happiness. Well, there's a lot of people, when people are sick, if you do that, you're taking the crack pipe from an addict. If you start talking about materialism, to your average person, they're gonna respond. They're gonna tense up. They're gonna tighten up. And it takes some real understanding to start to untangle that web. So some psychology, but like to understand where someone's at. And if we know about addiction, no, you can't just quit. Just quitting is like, if you understand addiction, there's no just quit. It's a process. People have got themselves, people are on a trajectory, just like our whole species is on an evolutionary trajectory. Individuals are on a evolutionary trajectory too. What we do in the moment creates what's happening in the future also. So there's a lot of different things to understand, and understand the habitat, understand when a species population has grown up in the habitat of Americana, that's addiction. They are relating heavily to inanimate objects and idealism, printed currency, written law, clocks, materialism. And here's the narcissism, colonialism thing is, let's say everybody, if you haven't, then again, message later, we'll discuss more. It mirrors exactly the relationship with a narcissist. Everyone, and I really don't like these terms, but we're using them because it's what we got to work with right now. But the relationship with a narcissist, if you do with a hallmark talking about the energetic feeling, is that our wellness goes away. And you've got everything except for your wellness, and which is Americana. Like I said, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism. It's the exact same thing. And like we said at the beginning of the conversation, it's the individuals that make up the society. So individuals that are not doing their holistic growth and that are filling these voids with materialistic things, that's, the classic example of addiction. And then you get a group of people not doing their their wellness journey, to say that. And then that group is enabling, and that group gets bigger. And again, what you don't want, if you want a very strong reaction, go into a crack house and try taking someone's crack and see what happens. But that's exactly what we're talking about, right? We have to understand, and I think it's a very good parallel. But we have to understand what's going on. The species, and also addiction 101, lessons from addiction. That's a whole thing. Lessons from addiction is the addict does everything except for what they're supposed to do at the expense of literally everything around them. So that's the catastrophic collateral damage that colonial society, contemporary society has on the planet as a whole. So I like to point out these parallels because, again, that's some of the things that give us context and that give us some levity to understand what's going on. So when the other half of the population, or, small group with lots of leverage though, right? We understand, wow, why don't people get with the program? Why are people hurting the planet? Why are people hurting themselves? Why are people not able to have more in-depth conversations? Look at the addiction and the scarcity mindset, because their mentality is constricted and they're sick. And this is when people say that addiction is an illness, I think that there's a very good case to use that term. I'll break for a second. Anybody have anything to add? Questions, comments at this time?
Can you hear me, brother?
Daku?
Can you hear me?
Ha ha.
Oh,
Okay.
I was just to say, you love my, you're doing a good job. Nice job.
Ha ha. Pila.
Sorry, but I gotta eat my supper
No,
here.
you're good, bro. You're good. No,
But
appreciate you.
we're not folks.
Oh,
I'm hearing.
yeah, yeah.
Woke it up.
Ah, Nengi washte yuhailo. Um, yeah. Yeah, Tom, always good to have you here. And yeah, Charlene, thanks. All you just, people listen. Hell, I don't care, if you're doing dishes or whatever, just mute your audio, turn off your video and listen along. It looks good. We got 8 people here. It looks good. Makes us look good. Makes us look like
Thank you,
people
Kraig.
care.
Thank you, Kraig, for having us.
Oh, huh,
I was just thinking tonight, I'm so glad that you had this meeting tonight because I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna go do my wellness. I'm gonna get all to go to the movie to go spend a couple $100. My time and energy, and I was like, that's not wellness. I was like, oh my gosh, like I could just sit in here, eating some popcorn, engaging with my peers, and you know what? I'd feel so much better. $200 happier.
$200 less. Yeah, just buy the popcorn. Hey, this is entertainment, right? Just sit back.
And then I'm thinking, you know what? Tomorrow I have to do something, and I was like, it's not really a have to, but I'm getting up early and I'm gonna go blueberry picking. So
Yeah, I knew that was what you were going to say too.
I'm just
I have to
excited.
do that too.
Yeah.
I have to do that too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's about that time to get your jelly and all
Yeah.
your medicines for the winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
Uh,
yeah, thank
yeah. Yeah. Definitely. No, appreciate you. As a matter of fact, not to put you on the spot, but either you or Tom, would you guys like to share? So basically what we're saying is, bear with me a second. I'm going to come back to Shantae and Tom here and ask if they want to tell this story. I want to give them an option to tell the story first. But, um, what we're talking about is when we realize these frightening things that are going on with our own species and we try to run away, it catches up with us. All right. And so, what I see is the Sichangu lesson of running back into the fire. So, Shantae, you have, if you want to tell it, you are obviously the first person to
Oh,
tell that story if you would like.
well, um, I feel like the one that like I don't know how to say the wiser one. Tom could,
The run back through the fire story, burnt eyes.
yeah, I think Tom could probably tell it better. I just know overall we
Oh,
were pretty badass. I don't know
badass,
how.
super badass, but it's a lesson, right? It's a Lihimichiapalo and Ohitika.
Hmm.
Won't
Yeah.
huh? Chia Gasluaya. Hey, you know that story?
Yo, Taco.
The Sichangu burnt eye story.
I'm not really very familiar with the artist.
Uh-huh.
Or relatives.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Miela.
uh,
All right. Well, this
I
is
I wanted to hear her because maybe it's something you from me. I know it is. It's always
was she
something you from me.
So
I think she
um
passed it. I think she
I think
passed it on to me. Or she passed
well
it
I
on to
think
you.
Well, you
well,
guys don't be holding up, man. Come on, let us in.
well,
Yeah.
okay, so I the from my understanding is that when we were getting chased from the what is it, Ihunkta one, from that way, from the Minnesota, Montana, and um basically Custer and his people were coming, the Canadians were coming down but we were also getting surrounded, the North Dakota, Nakota, Dakota, and Lakota, and we were getting surrounded. And from my understanding is that the Canadians were coming down, and what they did was they started this huge fire, a long line of fires, and so we were really really under attack. So what happened was the Pine Ridge, South Dakota, Rosebud, all them, we went up north to try to stop them from coming over into our territory, but everybody like started going their directions, the Minnesota, Montana, wherever. And what we did as a Sichangu is we jumped through the flames to get at the enemy and trying to stop them. And when we looked down, our legs were burnt. So that's how we became Sichangu, which is Burnt Thigh Nation. So I mean, I guess that's what I was told.
Yeah. And so the way I was told it was, hey, honey, they were surrounded by fire. The Sichangu were surrounded by fire. I didn't know the other part, so that's good. But of course, that makes sense. But they were surrounded by fire, and there was, there wasn't really good way to go. And then, the prairie fire can burn, super fast, as with all fires. And there was an elder, an old lady, and she said, it's not burnt. There's no fire on the other side of the fire. So if we run through the fire, it's safe on the other side. So that's what I think about it. I think about that as embracing challenge, and understanding like what needs to be done. And that, like we're talking about, this illness is the fire that we've come from. And then here's these traditional lessons, how we can use them today, is that this illness, this contemporary society illness, this colonial society illness, is the fire that, we try to run from, but actually there's no running from it. So we need to run back into it. And then when we understand it, we run through it. And it's tough. But anyways, they said, yeah, okay, they ran through it. And of course, that elder didn't make it, but other people made it. And then that's how they got the burnt thighs. And that's what I was told. And that's how but I think that's just a powerful lesson from Sichangu Nation, is to run back into the fire. And then there's also the teachings that our poison is our medicine. So that's another parallel to that understanding of how to embrace challenge. So, this is our poison. And then, we've all, I'm going to say, had catastrophic effects from being in colonial / contemporary society. And it's like, oh yeah, get away from that shit. But it's still our species. And there's like not a really getaway. And it's, the collateral damage, not only amongst ourselves, but what about the other entities? We're not just here for the people. It's like, I mean, like on a real level, it's like, yeah, the people are the small part of it. To say that Mitakiase and to this aligns with our bigger, our energy and our leverage, that to heal our species for the sake of the other organisms. And there's a big meditation in there. And like, even like, I picked ants and snakes and spiders and things that most contemporary people don't like really think of, but those are all really, 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 really powerful. And do it for the small things, that, that insect nation, Blushko Yate. So resonate with these small things, right? And these are the nuances. And also there's the lessons there, the small things with Blushka. I'll say that, since Tom and Chantal are here, respect using these terms, using these traditional lessons, this traditional wisdom that we're all together, and to really use that Mitakiase, to use that connection to everything, to grow this relationship with the smallest, organisms, microorganisms, yeah, ants, bees, spiders, snakes, everything. That's a leverage, that's a wellness. And also, when we grow those relationships with non-human forms, we're getting ourselves some levity between the humans, because we're all pissed off at each other, because we're all mad, and we got a right to be. There's a part of us that doesn't like each other, and that's supposed to be there, and it's for obvious reasons. Now there's balance in that, of course, but that's one of those things. Like, let's say what's really going on. Let's address some of these problems. So, but there's the teaching coming back to us, and there's a time maybe we didn't have all this human to human turmoil when we all spent more time away from each other, when we all spent time in the woods. And let's see here, are there any traditional practices that force us into ourselves? Yes, walkabouts and umbletches and all kinds of things that traditional societies had us do, and still have, I shouldn't say had, right, have us do, to get inward and to make that separation between each other too. And then lessons of coming back together again. And there's that cycle again. There's that ebb and flow of separation, of individuality and community, and individuality and community. And I was talking with someone the other day about that. You can't have community without individuality. So, and the community is to support individuality, whichever way the individuality grows, and with respect to the outliers. And let's see here. I know some big, outliers. It's like, for me, Hilka, to understand, and I won't do anymore, but that's the outlier. That's respect for the outliers, and to recognize all the outliers as integral parts of everything, of all of us. So, traditional ways, they're all, and it's still very viable in helping us understand what's going on now. So, resonating with other beings, with other life forms, because that's one of the problems. We get so caught up in the human-centric, human to human to human. But the problem with the human is that it lost its contact with the other relatives on the planet. So the people are trying to fix the people, but that is a clear example of the problem in itself, because the humans are only caring about the humans. So, wellness in a sick society, here's some things that we can do to grow relationships with our non-human relatives. And they just gave us a whole bunch of good wisdom and good things to pick, a small insect, a rock, a tree. And if we're related to that, we wouldn't be here without any of those. So on a real scientific, logical level, all those things we need. All those things should have the utmost respect before the human life. And it's a funny thing that if we cared for everything else first, then we wouldn't have the struggles with caring for ourselves in contemporary society. How does contemporary society expect to live when it trespasses on the things we need to live? So that's the most real shit. Yeah. Well, look ahead.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
You know, I don't know. Sickness in society. Honestly, brother, you talk as a people, we went through that last Friday night. It's horrible. I brought my children and brought these little guys back. He didn't want to go back. I understood. But we talked. These oldest ones understood that this young man, if he had respect, he wouldn't have caused this chaos. And they were very doske, how did they say that? They want the best of the wisdom that night, my children, because my oldest one, she's a preteen. You know her, Brother Kraig, Miley.
Huh.
How Bryson. It was good to hear him talk. And she was like, Uncle Tom, why would somebody do that? I said, that's what we wanna find out. That's what we're gonna find out now. But I said, what's the most thing you guys feel besides being scared? Besides still remembering hearing those shots? And besides hearing all the people scream and the kids, crying and the women crying and all of that. Bryson, he's like, he said, that boy didn't have respect and just, did that to that boy's dad. I asked my dad, I'm preaching. I said, what do you think? And he goes, probably high on drugs. I said, no, my girl, don't think that way. Let's not be judgmental. Let's be something beyond that. Everybody's going to say that because they have that sickness in their mind already. They're going to say, oh, probably meth deal gone bad or something toxic, something different. You hardly hear anything. And here it turned out to be a whole different story. And I'll tell you this, even as an ex-police officer, I walked by that. I walked by them, not even 15 seconds later that shooting happened. But as soon as I walked by, but at that time and then at that, I myself, I didn't come into the motive. Uncle Tom, my brother, my nephew, all I went into the effect of me being a cop. This rat. Oh, he's probably drugged up. I went into that. What is it? What's the next thing I do? I tried to, get these kids away from him, but I couldn't. There were so many. Something that children don't need to see, but it happened. Anyways, I ran home to my camp, and I love Brother TJ, son. He had all the kids in the park. They were secured, and he was out there. And when I ran up, he's like, bro, hey, that shooter, they said he went back to you, blah, blah, blah. I said, I know. So what did I do? I got my piece. And see, there I go again. Okay, my own people. But to say that, my mind went into that effect of that ex-police officer mode. Oh, everybody's crazy. Everybody, and then going into that effect of judging. That's what happened. But in the long run, that next day I get up and I'm like, man, I went through a lot last night. My mind just raced. And I sat back down in the car, made sure my kids were okay. They were still sleeping. And I said, what's the most common thing that? And she is right. There's no respect to anyone. No respect. Before I came zooming on with you guys, I just saw two young boys pushing up an elderly woman, saying she should die. Just the whole blah, 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 blah. And the parent just let it happen. It's normal. And when I come back here, I'm like, Miney's right. There's no respect. You either lost it or, I don't know, slowly fading away. So among that sickness, that's something that this young man brought to the people. And that's what I said to my kids. Imagine if he didn't bring that. How do you think that would end up? I mean, power and stuff. He'll end up doing the same thing, but what if it was a little kid? What if it was an innocent person? What if it wasn't a father that was trying to stop the fight, that his son was getting beat, and he wasn't taking up for his son, he was just trying to stop him. In the long run, it's going to be on him. So let's not judge him. Let's look at these things. You guys are going to be the people one day. Look at these flaws our people are having. Number one thing, what did I always tell you kids? What's destroying our families? What kills dreams? Number one is alcohol. Do you kids know that part? Learn from this. When you go back to school, bring this up if you have to. If it bothers you, tell me. We're gonna go to a unique. Bryson already came with me. And but they understand that part, but that's something that as a father and as a grandfather and as a cherry trash out from in mind, it's really bounded into our youth now. And I like what my little sister said. You know why they're like that? He said, why? What's in their hand? Just because we legalize marijuana here, that's the first thing I thought of. Oh, a pipe or a doobie or pre-roll or whatever you call it. What? A phone. They really think they know everything with that phone. So they don't need grandma anymore. They don't need uncle anymore. All I have to do is look it up. Oh, that's what it means. And then that affectionate, when you apply that to, like, when I tell my kids I love them, I apply it. Hug them, touch, all that. They don't have that with a phone. So they don't know it. It's just respect. Oh, you know the word in English, respect. Wow, you need to hold out different.
Oh, wow.
You carry something. And you have to carry, especially if you're a bad man and you're a young boy. Especially if you have sisters. That's something you have to really carry. And I'll bet you, when you get older, I told Brighton, you're going to help a little girl. Each time you talk bad about a girl or a woman or something, either dumb or, you know what? You're going to help a little girl. And your whole idea is going to change. So remember those things. But always just remember what these flaws are happening for. Learn from them. It's bad that it happened, but let's try to look at something good from it. And the next thing was the heat out. They got scared. The heat out. They almost means life. You take it at the heat out. Well, instead of having that, they had that for a little brief moment. And when we got home, I sludged them, auxiliated the house, auxiliated the car, auxiliated all everything, even their outfits, their regalia. And that's what we talked about, the heat check. That's what let's talk about. What is scary? What's the part? Let's work on it. And let's stand up. So we did. And then when we got done and they told me what makes them feel better, it made me feel better. So I had to stick to that duty. So when they slept, I stayed up all night. That's what they like. At the time when I get up, I like it when they're on the computer or when they're cleaning up or when they're carving out your pie. So when you're doing something, Grandma Grace always told me I was a stoker, fire watcher, fire stoker. But anyway, that's besides the point. My kids understood that part. The next day, I was like, you know what, you guys, they have that power. Like, what do you guys want to do? They all said dance. But I don't want to dance for money. That's what Miley said. So I said, let's dance. You take this negative out of that ground. Let's dance and pound that negative out of that ground. I said, well, that's what you must have. Well, let's just dance and take that negativity out. I said, there you go. You remind me of that buffalo that has to keep continuing to walk in that winter storm, and he's walking, and he's got his crew behind him, and it's snowing, and he has to continue. That's like what the people. So I love you both for that. So they did. I love Miley for that. She said, from here on out, I'm not going to dance for money. I'm not going to dance for competition. I'm going to dance for the people. We'll do that for a whole year. I said, I love you, my girl. That's an honor. It's an honor. And, it's just something that my kids understood and they got their courage and then they went back to the power. And I said, that's your spirit alive over that whatever call it, craziness, sickness, or however they say it, drug related and all that. Those, however they want to judge it, you overcome that. So they had a good time. But of course, this morning, today they remembered that country tongue. And that's another thing. I said, that's cool, you guys remember it. It's an honor. It's an honor. I'll go to his funeral, and I'm gonna let his little brother know, Brian, and I'm gonna let him know what you guys did. That's something that you guys don't even know him. I mean, I know him. He's my cousin on my dad's side. But I said, that's something you guys, we don't do that anymore. Lakota people used to help each other. But because of all these things, these substances we have, and then even our way of thinking, and even to that sickness, we're starting to show our children a whole different way of rolling. So that's something that really bothered me, Sue. And I'm glad I'm here. And just like that sister said, I'm glad I'm here. I'm supposed to go to a powwow to put on Kyle, okay, little monkey. I said I'd rather listen to what's going to go on here because I'd rather be home. My kids want to be home. Maybe next powwow we'll go, but that's why I said that. Okay, so Lila Pilamaya la umobla kao hapsi. Woke something. Wow, you want to be. I thank you for having us talk to you. It helps me, gives me wisdom too. So Pilamaya.
Nisha, Pilamia, ilo, Wokila Tonka, Lilo Wokus Pay, Hailo, Blakilo. Tom saying that, and there's cycles and there's layers, and in real life, we were talking about running through the fire, running back into the fire, and this sickness that our species had, and then that's what Tom's saying about this awful thing happened at the powwow. He was talking about the shooting at the Ognash, the Oglala Nation powwow there. And then they came home and make yourself strong. All right. We had traumatic experience. We were exposed to the sickness, come home, heal up, and then go back. And then they went back. And talking about relating to that phone, relating to that inanimate object that doesn't trade energy like we trade energy as humans. Relating to that phone, yeah, that phone's got everything that any one of us could say on it. Just Google it. It's not the same. It's not our traditional trajectory. And of course, there's lots more in that that's beyond the ability of science and scientific method to quantify in empirical data. We just have to know it, not in empirical data way, know it in our heart way. So all those things that Tom was saying is a reflection of what we're dealing with on a bigger scale. We all have that thing, but it's here's the challenge. Do we just let the sickness? That's not an option to let the sickness go. It's where we have to make ourselves strong. We have to run back through the fire. And this is, hopefully facilitating conversations like this is, that wellness so we can make ourselves strong, so we can, go back into the fire, so we can heal, so we can do these things. So yeah. Tom, appreciate that. Um, uh, and Shantae, do you have anything you want to throw in too?
Well, I just wanted to say, thank you, Tom, for sharing that, and really, it's real sad to hear, and I'm just real good to hear from you today, and
Uh,
we're praying for you and your family, and also the victims, but also the shooter as well, because
oh,
and how that's is gonna affect his family in the future also. So yeah, lots of prayers to you guys, and yeah, thank you for everybody for showing up. It's really good to be here, and I'm learning so much from you, Kraig. It's an honor to be sitting here around you and hearing your words and your knowledge. So, thank you again. Thank you for all you teachers out there. That's kind of what I would want to say is you guys are all teaching me as well. So, thank you. Since it's
the
kind of
share,
hard.
Yokpil Washtiki. Good trade. Good trade. All of us trading all this information and, Tom and Shantae, giving their traditional stories and giving that traditional, insight and, that just your guys, your natural, being and, how your habitat and these things that, a lot of people know instinctually and that are, part of traditional culture and people that are closer to that. It's just, critical. And you see how much I use or, relate to traditional ways and even contemporary, in contemporary and all these things. So, that's why I see, and that's just been, it's huge. I mean, we can't, it, my understanding is that, we can't continue on as a species these, without this Ehon and Wilkesapay, without this ancestral wisdom, and the Mitakiasi and relating to the, the insects and the cycles and natural cycles and these lessons of, make yourself strong and run back through the fire. All these things are just, and I could list off a whole lot more. I'm going to go through, I have some notes. I didn't even look at them at all. Um, but I'll just go through some of these. I shoot from the hip a lot, but I do have some notes off to the side here. Um, one of the when I say business of being human, that's, looking at things from an objective lens, looking at our entities or pathogens in our environment from an objective thought process, you know. And, people in contemporary society, would say, well, science is, separating things, but true understanding doesn't separate things. We don't eliminate any information. Our objective thought process acknowledges our spirituality. Acknowledges our, emotional components. It acknowledges our physical needs. That's real understanding. So when we talk about, once, but when we talk about learning, when we talk about knowledge, it's inclusive. It's inclusive of all the human aspects. One thing I had been saying, and I missed it, but when we talk about understanding, I have this little thing I do. I say understanding is the soil, and idea is the seed, intention is the water, action is the sunlight. So let's add some understanding and intention to this concept. So understanding our challenges, and we have this idea that to create change, to grow, to heal, but let's keep these intentions, keep these, we went through a couple meditations, keep intention on the healing, on the progress, on the challenge, right? Don't take your eye off the ball. We've got work to do. There's lots of work to do, but within that work itself is a healing component. Like we're talking about the most, honestly, we're talking about the most horrific thing, a species killing its own habitat and everything around it. With that, there's wellness by embracing that and by taking it seriously and by working on it. We grow healthy. We can have healthy conversations. We can be well. That's what I see. That's my understanding. That is my experience in life. So there's that, that thing, that fear, right? And we say fear-based mentality, to watch when we get that. We have to understand challenges, we have to understand threats, but we have to also understand when there's nothing else to do but overcome those challenges and those threats. And that's that challenge of life or death, which facilitates life. Remember when we talked about contemporary society does everything it can to avoid challenge, but challenge is life.
Yeah, I
And
think that's
yeah,
kind of what I think that's the that I've learned this past week, and it's been challenging in itself,
huh.
is being to embrace those real traumatic experiences, even all the way down to death.
Mm-hmm.
4 COs, basically patients, in the last several weeks. And when you start to engage with your peers or people around you, you do grow a bond, no matter where you've
Mm-hmm.
met there, how long you've met them. But I couldn't get past that grief. It just kind of triggered me to start grieving again. And I was like, man, am I ever going to get over this grief? Because it's like one after another. If it's not with me, it's a friend or a family or someone I've crossed paths with. But I've learned, working in the behavior and mental health field, is that we kind of have to look at it as a different way, like a positive, and which is it's a given. Even with our traditional way of life, it's a given. Without a negative, there can't be a positive. Without a positive, can't be a negative. And it's just, I guess, again, it just goes down to treat others how you want to be treated. And I just realized that I don't want to. It's not that I don't want to grieve. It's just that I want to celebrate their life, and I'm sure me, along with many other people, would probably want someone around us that's going to remember us and make us smile right before we pass. So that's
100.
all, was try to be a positive impact on people and treat them as I would want to be treated, and just being a good steward, and be as I guess, I don't know, learning how to be there for people. And it doesn't matter where you come from, or whether their illness, their mental, their behavioral health issues, because I work with a lot of behavior and mental health patients. And they've committed crimes, a lot of crimes that we were just talking about, but they've had issues. So you know what, I can't judge them, because we're all not perfect. And there's nobody, in all honesty, there's nobody perfect here. And I think we're all suffering from something, and we're all just masking it. But who am I to judge? I just want to be there. So I've learned that, like, just to be there for people and keep rolling, keep going forward, I guess. That's all we can do.
You know, there's a there's a time to talk about the differentiation between, passing judgment and understanding challenges, and also that judgment, where does judgment get in the way of our understanding? Because these things, it's and all those things happen at the same time, because we need to take care of ourselves. We don't want to disregard threats, but also, there's lessons in them too. And especially when it's talking about humans, we have to understand where these sicknesses come from, like actually understand them. And if we're just judging, I think that gets in the way of our understanding. And again, that's with the caveat that, be safe. And, we don't want to invite perpetuated trauma into our lives. But there's lots of balance here, and speaking of balance, that death's a part of life. And does it happen maybe unnecessarily times, tragically times? Yeah, but its core, it is something that happens. And I think that's something to if we put ourselves in that state um of a natural entity on this planet, that's our physical being decomposing and, feeding that insect nation again, feeding the worms that feed the birds, that, that that help spread the seeds of the plants that we eat. And when the worms get washed into the stream, they feed the fish that we catch and all that. So like understanding that natural cycle is I always talk to people that have challenges with death about that, and just acclimating to those natural cycles, and to not judge, you know, why, why something, why something happened. And we can see it, but there's always a part that we can't see. We can say, well, this happened because of this. Right. But there could be infinite other number of things that happen too. And so it's really important to, keep an open mind on that. This is wellness in a sick society. A couple of things I missed up right up at top of the notes here. Usually I plug in a term or a topic into my notes, and I'll get, 10 or 20 or 25 mentions in it, right? I've got, I don't know, 400 pages of notes or something. And I think that when I plugged in challenge to my notes for researching for this, so I do a little bit of research for these, believe it or not. I got like 256 mentions of challenge. And there was another one that I did not too long ago that had like a lot of mentions, but wellness was mentioned 170 times, and society was mentioned 172 times. So, wellness in a sick society, I think this is the conversation, because we're not going to do anything unless we heal ourselves first, right? Then we can contribute. But that contribution part, that's the key part to understand. And we can even reverse engineer these things. Oh, am I giving back though? How am I, what's my give back? What am I going, how can I help create that change? So, that's an important thing, and understanding these habitats, understanding collective consciousness, habitat, understanding the addiction, understanding those things, understanding there's another one. Oh, was it alignment? Did we do alignment last? Alignment was probably another one that had a whole lot of notes, whole lot of mentions in my notes. Because when we align with the solution, then there's things happen. When we align with the challenge, there's a solution. Oh, let me get the whiteboard really quick. Should I get the whiteboard again to show that? Yes. Wait, it'll be worth it. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, so can you guys see that even okay?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So you see how when we're close to something, is it reversed on your screen, or is it the right way?
It looks the right way. I can
Yeah,
read
okay.
it.
Okay. So see here. Here's us. Here's our understanding. And here's the challenge. When we grow our understanding, we get a better view, and we see the solutions hiding behind the challenge. And this is growing us. And in the solution is our wellness. So always embracing the challenge. But here's another natural cycle. There's like our growth process. So, embracing the challenge it works. There's natural things. There's ways that things work on this planet. This planet works perfectly. Everything on this planet works perfectly. We just need to figure out how. But we need to know, first of all, know that it works, and then find out how. And then when we align with that, we can say, oh, it's just like we align with these, hang on, and Wilkes pay. with this ancestral wisdom and these teachings, and make yourself strong, the Himichaplo, and all the ceremonies and things to make ourselves strong and run back through the fire. And, that's embracing challenge. So,
Brother,
Taku.
I like to say something about challenge
Okay.
that I learned from my grandma
Okay.
before she passed. She said, remember something, Apuja, you're gonna be a daddy one day. And he said, it's gonna make you happy. Well, always remember this. There's something going on before your little ones come. And she said, that's a challenge. It's a challenge of pain between you when you came here, when you were born, and the challenge of that pain of your mama. It's gotta be equal. That's the way it should be. And when it's equal, he said, that's why I always worry about my kids. Because my pain was equal to their pain. And that was a challenge. He cried, I screamed, he cried, she cried. So that was going on until it balanced. When the balance of the pain came, that's when we're born. That's when we come into this world. So always remember that. Don't think, oh, she had a baby, I'm a dad, and pass out your cigar and your bubble gum and whatnot. Just remember the head, which one you feel, oh, that's what she said. She's bringing a sacred life, and that's sacred. That's the sacred part of child. Besides the whole idea of you being. So anyways, I just wanted to make that comment because I just something I learned from Grandma Kraig. Just wanted to pass that on. Oh, that's good. I'll walk it up.
Okay. We are actually pretty much on time for what that's worth, as much as I complain about clocks and stuff like that. I'm going to I'm going to introduce something here. Look, cool swag. Got my BizGuide cups.
Wow, that is nice. I love it.
Fancy, huh?
Yeah, fancy.
There's that one. And then here's same thing at the
Oh, and it comes with a feather?
Yeah, you can. Here you go.
Wait.
Oh,
Didn't see it cut out. Go back. How do you say? Yes. Oh, that is so awesome.
So I got that, but wait, there's more. We have refrigerator magnets.
Oh my goodness. I love magnets.
Come back.
You know what? It's kind of fun. So we have this whole thing. I'll post all these sometime too. But we have this whole thing. I'm doing workshops, but also I'm developing like do-it-yourself wellness programs. And one of them is like the refrigerator wellness program. And it's like, when we go to the refrigerator, we're feeding our bodies, but also what are we feeding our minds? That sort of thing. And so these, and then of course everyone's at the refrigerator. So we have these things on the refrigerator, right? Everyone's refrigerator is covered with little wellness tips and tricks, right? So I got some of these, and I had a couple people like their kids stole them, which is great, right? It's like, oh, okay, who knew?
Sit down.
And then someone else said that someone in their family who they have a challenging relationship with, Solomon was interested and was like, oh, that's all right. And they liked them. And it was funny because the person, we were laughing because they're like, what do you like about that? I can relate to, some people that I know. It's like, "Hey, are you saying like you understand that in some way? Why didn't you tell
Love
me this a million years ago?" Um,
that one. That one's nice.
yeah.
That I
Yeah.
can
Hunt down
understand
the
it.
trade. That's like,
Uh,
so the book, Business of Being Human, that's the secondary title. It's a
that
business of
almost looks like
human. It's
it
hunt
should be
down
a book. That looks like, are you making that a book?
the business of being human is going to be a book. I got a different cover design.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you that. I'll
Yeah,
share the
that's
cover design with the group sometime here.
all right.
That's like a little
Wow.
Over there.
cheat sheet.
Oh,
That's an energy exchange cheat sheet. So
can I get that one from you?
yeah,
Thank
anybody
you.
ask me if you want some, I'll hook everyone here up.
I was trying to memorize this.
Yeah, no, just let me know. We'll do that. But yeah, that's the people say, oh, you know what? I'm having trouble with this relationship. Well, is the energy exchange do all those things? And the only thing I have to explain is traditional. And that's the part with the capital T, traditional, like pre-mass commoditization, pre-disposable era, when there wasn't 200 million people in a small group and where everybody really mattered, and our attention wasn't dispersed across, infinite people. We had to know the people in our group. And so each individual had more of a value. So to bring back that understanding and that intention to our words, to that intention to the words that we're trading with each other, to make sure that we have a good energy there, and make sure that we're conscious about the words that we're trading is the thing there. But yeah, are these conversations traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional, and empowering? So that's one of the that's the trade acronym. And there's going to be actually like a mini book or something like that on just that one thing.
Learning how learning how to engage, huh?
Yeah, re-engaging. Yeah, re-engaging through those.
Craig,
Yeah.
put
Taco,
this as
yes.
I wanted to say, when your book comes out, I want to buy a copy right away. So just as soon as I'm able to,
No
let me
problem.
know, because I can pay you in advance or whatever.
No problem. Don't hold your breath. It's probably going to be another year still. I've been working on it for 2. But I just had, and this, I mean, when I say 2 years, I mean 2 years of weekly meetings with an editor for 2 hours a week. So, yeah, and I'll share some of that stuff. I started the Facebook group, that I'm going to be sharing some more, some more content with, to say it that way. But yeah, the book, we're on chapter 5.6 now. And chapter 5 is chapter 5. There's 10 parts in chapter 5, and then there's a chapter 6. So there's only 6 chapters. But as you can imagine, they're a little bit in depth. So the whole thing is, telling the story and, keeping it concise, but yet including all the parallels and having it flow and all that. But my editor is amazing. Um, and yeah, I got the cover design, and we are on our 3rd edit. So we still have 4 more parts to chapter 5, and then we have chapter 6, and then we'll go through again, and then that'll really
Excuse me.
start to be fine tuning things, and then we'll start handing out, um, we'll start giving out some for people to test read, and I got a couple people lined up for test read and doing the focus groups and all that kind of stuff. And it'll probably take 2 or 3 more edits, and it'll be another year. I'll be happy if it's done in another year. So it's a process.
I just know that my notes are a mess, and not as glorious as when you tell it. So, and then of course I missed a lot of weeks, and so hit and miss. And so, man, the second I can get a copy, I'm happy to pay in advance.
Well, don't worry about it. We'll get you one somehow. But well, and actually this book is just going to be the foundation for everything, because there's two more books that are being done at the kind of at the same time. There's content added into two more books, three more books, four more books. There's like four more books in the series. But the first one, The Business of Being Human, is going to go through, yeah, business, the objective thought process, a little bit of, evolution of species, and basically what we do every time is do a big overview, and then here's a fine point, overview, fine point, overview, fine point. And then I'll go further with the upcoming books after that. We'll go further into, some of the fine points is, there's one of the books is Lessons from Addiction, which you hear me talk about that a lot. One of the books is Human OSV1, which is operating system version 1. It's basically showing all the parallels that we all have and that we've all gone through, pretty much the same experience and have had the same feelings, although in different physical settings. Lots of commonalities there, and how we all work the same, and we can talk about things because we feel things the same. And then the other one, the next one that's coming out is the next one that I'm going to release, the second one, is going to be what's the name of the next one? I did really just draw a blank because I know it all the time. It's Deconstructing Oppression.
That's a good one. We can walk in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. Deconstructing oppression. And that's going to go through the scarcity mindset, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism.
Amazing.
So that'll be the challenge. That'll be the challenging topic for a lot of people. So anyways, that's what's going on. Let's see here. And I'm gonna shut off the Facebook and go into the after party. So Facebook, see you later. Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, Business of Being Human, Wellness Workshop, Wellness in a Sick Society. Hope everybody got something out of that, and hope you're feeling more wellness than illness. And yeah, give back, balance. We grow, we give back. Natural processes, our species, we're not the only species here. Those things matter. Our thought process matters. The lens in which we view things matters. We're not just here as the human species, although the human species is a challenge. There's that does not absolve us from our relationships to other life forms on this planet. And that's also science too. So, there's no hippies here. This is real shit. Okay. I'm going to knock off of the Facebook live stream and then start the after party for the Facebook group. I mean, for the Zoom group. Okay.
You said no hippies
Bye.
on Facebook. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, Facebook.